Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is The Picture of Dorian Gray, playing on Broadway at the Music Box Theater. Now, before I get into this, a quick reminder to please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me to grow this channel, and it also makes me feel really good about myself. This is a performance by one person, Sarah Snook. She's accompanied by 5 camera operators, and she's performing live on the stage, and they're using the cameras to video her close up and project those onto screens. This seems to be a popular thing right now, to use cameras live on the stage. We just saw this with Sunset Boulevard. They used wide screens and black and white imagery because they're telling the story of Norma Desmond, a silent movie star, a very cinematic feel. The Picture of Dorian Gray is different in that it's trying to achieve the feeling of looking at a smartphone. So the screens, I should say, are very tall and narrow. We start out with just one, but then we see multiple as we move through the show. And Dorian Gray is also commenting on people's obsession with beauty and how they present themselves. And of course, this is tied in to how we use our smartphones. The technical aspects of this show are very impressive. We start very simple with Sarah Snook playing these 2 characters, and she just uses a cigarette in one hand and a paintbrush in the other, and she turns to each camera and switches her voice, switches the character. But then as we move along, she starts to add costume pieces, and then she starts to add a pre-recorded voice of herself. Then she adds pre-recorded images, video images of herself. They're overlaid onto these projections of her so that she's acting with herself. And that culminates in a dinner scene, and we have 5 or 6 characters, and they're all lined up, and they're the size that Sarah is on the stage, but that she's in real life towards the end, and then everyone else is a projection next to her. And each of these characters is fully costumed, fully realized. She's got old makeup on, young makeup. She's male, female. These characterizations are fantastic. It really reminded me of Jefferson Mays in Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, where he played all the members of the Dysquith family. It's very much in that vein. And then as we move along, we start to get more video images that were pre-recorded outside. We get more screens coming in, and there's more to look out, and it just amps up the technical aspects of the show towards the conclusion of the play. The tone of the production also really reminded me of A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. It's very broad, it's very campy, slapsticky humor, and it's very melodramatic. As we get towards the end of the play, it just becomes very heightened, very broad. And I think this is entirely appropriate. For The Picture of Dorian Gray, written by Oscar Wilde, it really lends itself to this kind of approach. Other technical aspects that they use, which are really great, is there's moments where she uses a phone to basically record a selfie of herself, and she puts on a filter to make her look younger or more beautiful. And she uses those filters throughout to play different characters, which I thought was a nice touch. At one point, she takes a selfie of herself, and then as she's speaking, she's editing the selfie into something else. I thought these were all really great touches that really took this old story and made it more relevant to modern day audiences. So, was I bored? Was I confused? I was not bored at all during the show. The show is only 2 hours, no intermission. It is a really good adaptation of The Picture of Dorian Gray, a short story by Oscar Wilde. And I am pretty familiar with the story, having read it and also seen the black and white movie from back in the day. And as far as my memory recalled, she really was hitting all of the main plot points, all of these interesting characters. So not bored at all. Was I confused? I was a little confused during the dinner scene where she dresses up as all these different characters because I really couldn't follow what they were talking about. But it's not really about that. That scene was really more just an opportunity for Sarah to show off these really great characterizations that she's made. And it's really delightful to see how they use the technology to multiply her on the stage. So for about 90 to 95% of the show, I was focused on one of the screens on the stage. We start out with just one for a very long time. 30 to 40 minutes of the first show is just one tall smartphone-shaped screen. And as I was watching the show, I was asking myself, why is this on stage? Because I'm looking at a screen for the majority of the show. In fact, at the beginning, we can't really see Sarah Snook very well. She's behind the scrim with the camera people recording what we're seeing on the screen. So we might try to look at her for a second. For the most part, though, we're really looking at the images that are being projected. So there is a novelty to this, is that we're seeing this video piece being recorded in real time, which is an impressive feat, but to me, it doesn't enhance the story. And as we move along, I think 5 screens come flying in different sizes. Each one is a camera angle from one of the onstage camera people, and you get to choose which angle you want to look at, which is an interesting thing. But you know, on the stage, we get to choose where to look. When you watch a movie, the director and the editor have chosen which angle we're going to see the character. And since I can only really look at one at a time, you tend to look at whoever's speaking or the most dramatic thing. So I felt like if this was to be turned into a video, which I think they should, just choose your favorite and make it all a piece. And so for me, I would have rather just stayed home with my iPhone and watched this entire performance on an iPhone. Now, the reason I'm saying that is, first let me tell you where my seat was. Seat? I didn't have a seat. I wanted to see the show before it opened. I was shocked how popular this is. Sarah Snook is much better known to people for her performances in Succession and other movies and shows she's been in that I actually don't follow, so I'm not familiar with her. She's fantastic. I loved her characterizations, the writing of the show, everything about this performance I thought was great. I would love to just watch it though on my iPhone so I can stay at home. I don't have to put on pants. I don't have to buy a ticket. So I woke up early and went to the theater at 9:15. Box office opens at 10. There are 15 people already in front of me waiting for rush tickets. I was not able to get a rush ticket, but they did have some standing room. And I was like, I've been sitting out in the cold for an hour and 15 minutes. Let me just get standing room. The standing room ticket was $40, and I do not recommend the standing room ticket. I don't think this is a good show for standing room. Normally it's fine because you're just behind the back row and you can see the stage fine. But because this uses really tall smartphone-shaped projections, her face is at the very top of the projection. And the mezzanine comes down in such a way that in order for you to see her face in those projections, you have to lean down. And there's also these speakers that are hanging underneath the mezzanine, which normally are not a problem. My standing room ticket was the second standing room spot on house right in the orchestra. So I was just off the aisle, second one over. But from my angle, that speaker that hangs down from the mezzanine was right where her eyes are in the projection. So I was dodging and weaving for about the first 40 minutes of the show. And I just felt like, you know what, if we can't see the main focal point of the performance, which is really high, why are we selling standing room? My recommendation to you is if you are not able to get the rush ticket, don't do the standing room. It's just too much of a crapshoot. Or, I think the guy next to me was fine. I was standing room 4, because 2, 4, 6, 8. If you get 6 and 8 on the right or the left, I think you'll be looking between the speakers and you'll be okay. You'll still have to duck down a little bit, but you won't have to dodge and weave the way I did. Now, also, I don't know if the rush tickets are partial view. If you got a rush ticket for this show, please let me know if your seats were partial view and or if they were good or not. I'd really like to know that. Or even if you haven't seen the show, please comment below and tell me what you think. Do you think a piece of theater where you're looking at a recorded screen, even though it's being recorded live, are you excited about seeing that live, or are you like me and would you just rather see the final recorded piece? So my overall recommendation for the show itself, I think it's great. I think Sarah Snook is brilliant. I think it's funny. I think it's tragic. I think it's wildly entertaining. I think it's wildly inventive. Oscar Wildly inventive. It's a really great adaptation of The Picture of Dorian Gray. But my main caveat is, why are we watching it in a theater? But for $40 rush ticket, I think that's worth it. It's like an expensive movie. Or maybe just wait, see if they release it on TikTok. Or it's probably too long for TikTok. I could very well see them releasing this on Broadway HD or Netflix, and you could just watch it there, and I think you'd get the same experience that you do in the theater. So if you got $40 and want to wait in line to get a rush ticket, go check out The Picture of Dorian Gray, playing at the Music Box Theater.
Don't bore me. Don't confuse me. If you do, then you lose me. Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me engaged.